Hello, this is Adrian Jimson speaking, student ID 300407566, and this is part of my COMP313 presentation. Today I'll be discussing physics, video game physics, in particular 2D physics as used by Unity. So what I'll do is I'll just go through some of the bullet pointed talking points from the report and give a demonstration of some of the commonly used library features in Unity. So the problem that 2D physics engines are solving in a video game, is creating a realistic and expected gameplay flow and what you'd expect objects to, how you'd expect objects in real life to behave as they would fall and move and jump and slide around, to create a more engaging, kind of more, more realistic experience. Previously, these physics were all done from scratch. Like if you think back to the earliest platform games, such as, say, Donkey Kong, 1981, Shigeru Miyamoto had to actually hand code the way that Mario jumps over the barrels and the way that Donkey Kong throws them down and they roll down the diagonal slopes. And that was all, and that was a convincing, at the time, simulation of a man jumping over rolling barrels. These days, we expect much more advanced and complex behavior from our games, and thankfully, Unity does a lot of this for us. Another notable example of a game that popular game which utilised a 2D physics engine was Angry Birds. That was the entire basis of the game, was the 2D physics, the way the blocks moved around and collapsed on top of the ugly pig characters. The developers actually used a free open source Flash library, I believe, so they didn't actually code it themselves. They just drew the ugly monsters and made millions of euros on top of that. So yeah, that's how important 2D physics is. They create a engaging game experience. So so let's go into Unity and see what these things can do. Oh, and another thing, even in 100 and 200 level comp courses, we had to we had to kind of implement kind of vectors and calculations and movements ourselves, and there is really a lot of variables that goes into calculating movement and drag and friction and all that. So anyhow, so here we have a very rudimentary scene with some stock assets here. We've got a couple of rotating saw blades and some platforms. In order for Unity to recognize these as physical objects in a 2D plane, we need to assign them some components. So as you see here, we've selected the saw blade on the right, and I've attached a rigid body 2D component, which recognizes it, relatively self-explanatory. It believes it's a firm rigid object, and also a circle collider 2D. And also note that the 2D components differ from the Unity 3D components, but of course we're only talking about 2D components today. And it is a circle collider component. So you see I'll just zoom in a bit. See here the collider is denoted by the green outline here. So that is effectively the collision detection hitbox for the saw. And then now that those are applied, the Unity world will interpret that as a physical object, which will adhere to the gravity I've set for the program and fall down on the y-axis. And in order for these to interact with these platforms, I've also attached a box collider collision detection component on these platforms. There are several kinds of collider. If you look here in the Physics 2D library, let's see, we've got an edge collider and a box collider and a circle collider. So you can create various kinds of shapes and for various kinds of conditions of collision. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just run the scene now, and we will see how these objects slide and bounce around. Cool. So they convincingly rolled down the slope there. Those are just the two kind of most simple out of the box collision detections that Unity has, you can do all sorts of nifty stuff. In addition to this, so what I might do is you can attach various materials to the collision surfaces. So what I can do is with this circle collider, what I'll do is I'll create a new asset, which will be let's call this bounce. So we can make it so the surface of the circle collider will have a rubbery, bouncy ball type function, which again is something us humans understand intuitively, from playing as children and just the way the world works. What I'll do is I'll give it a bounciness stat of 0.8. I'm not exactly 100% sure on how these are calculated, but I know that giving it a bounciness of 1 makes it kind of exponentially bounce off the screen. So I'll do it at 0.8, and okay, so we have our bounce material. Now we'll quickly assign that to our circle collider. So give that the bounce material here. Cool. All right, now let's see what it does. And as you can see, that bounces around, which is pretty cool. Like I said, back in the day, you'd have to really do lots of calculations and conditions of when a collision is detected. Adjust the velocity and vector of this object by X amount, and but you can just intuitively build it all with these 2D components, and these will come out of the box for Unity. And I think there is lots of other custom libraries you can pay for or download in tutorials. So. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed that.